Good evening, good evening. Why don't you open your Bibles with me to 2 Samuel chapter 10. 2 Samuel chapter 10 as we continue going through the Old Testament together on Wednesday nights. And then, of course, on Sunday, we're going through the New Testament together. You put it all together, we're studying through the Bible. Kind of novel, isn't it? Kind of a thing to do. 2 Samuel chapter 10. Kindness. It's one of the greatest qualities a person can possess. Hurt people long for it. Scared people are comforted by it. Weak people are strengthened by it. Kindness goes so far. It's one of those qualities that can accomplish so many things. It breaks down barriers. It opens doors. It heals wounds. It deepens friendships. Kindness is a really great quality. There was a particularly beautiful woman who was married to a particularly ugly man. When a family friend asked, how could such a beautiful woman be married to such an ugly man? She replied, he never once has hurt my feelings. There's just something about kindness that's very powerful. And I really believe that people that have been touched by the Lord, people that have a relationship with the Lord, they've got to have kindness as part of their life. That has to come out of us. The Bible tells us in Romans chapter 2, verse 4, it's the goodness or the kindness of God that leads us to repentance. When we experience the kindness of God, it's what draws us to Him. He knows that. It's just like a magnet that draws people towards it. And that's why kindness is so important. That's why kindness is such a blessing. And as we've been studying the life of David, we've actually seen some great kindness, haven't we? Just last week, we studied about a man. You remember his name? What was his name? Mephibosheth. It's like, God bless you. Mephibosheth, God bless you. But Mephibosheth, as you remember, was a guy that, well, he had, at least in the normal understanding of kings and life and that kind of thing, he had no business even being alive. He was a member of the previous king's family. He was the grandson of King Saul. And so, as we talked about last week, the common logic is when a new king takes power, you get rid of all the family of the old king. So there's no chance of competition. There's no chance of anybody coming back and saying, I'm the rightful heir. You just remove all the competition. That's what kings did. David, of course, didn't do that. David said, who can I show kindness to for the sake of Jonathan, my best friend? And so after digging around a little, he finds out that there's this young guy named Mephibosheth. And he says, Mephibosheth, I'm going to restore all of your grandfather's land back to you. You've just become a very wealthy man. And not just that, but I'm going to let you live and dine for the rest of your days at my table. You're going to become, if you will, part of my family. And that is a grace, that is something that Mephibosheth did not deserve. And yet, because of kindness, David offered that to him. And so we see this beautiful picture of David being kind. And in today's chapter, we see another example of that. But I think you've noticed this already. Sometimes kindness is not rewarded. Have you noticed? Have you noticed sometimes you try and do well and it doesn't pay, especially with the ungodly? You know, it's been said, it is divine to reward kindness for evil. That's a divine thing. To give kindness for evil is divine. It's human to reward kindness with kindness. In other words, you're kind to me, I'm kind to you. but it is demonic to reward evil for kindness. When somebody is kind and you reward them evil, man, the enemy has something to do with that. Salud. And so today what we're going to see is a little bit of that. In this pretty short chapter, we're going to see kindness rewarded with evil, which is so unfortunate. So we're in chapter 10. We're going to kind of work our way through the chapter together. Let's start off in verses 1 and 2 when we see kindness revealed and rejected. Verse 1. It happened after this that the king of the people of Ammon died, and Hanun, his son, reigned in his place. Then David said, I will show kindness to Hanun, the son of Nahash, as his father showed kindness to me. So David sent by the hand of his servants to comfort him concerning his father, and David's servants came into the land of the people of Ammon. And so David hears about the fact that, well, Nahash, the king of Ammon, today's modern-day Jordan, has passed away. And at some point, and we don't know when, Ammon had shown David kindness. It's kind of unusual because the Israelites and the Ammonites did not get along really good. Saul and Nahash actually fought. Actually, I don't know if it was Nahash, but he fought with somebody, one of the kings of Ammon. And so there was a history of bad blood, but towards David, somewhere along the line, he had shown him kindness. And so when David hears, oh man, Nahash has passed away, I'm gonna send my condolences. I'm gonna send some comfort his way through some emissaries of mine. And that's really a great thing to do as a general practice. When somebody suffers a loss, when you just know somebody's going through it and their heart is broken and they're crushed, it's just a great thing to do, to send comfort and condolences their way. It's a blessing. I've been on the receiving end of that. Old Spice commercials. Everything is here today. Why don't we all silence our phones? Because I will make fun of you if your phone goes off. Ask my wife, she'll tell you. And when I think about the best example of offering condolences and comfort to a person in grief, my mind immediately goes to the book of Job. And when Job goes through it, and you know Job did, he lost a bunch of his kids. He lost so much of his wealth, and the only thing he was left with was a wife that said, curse God and die. But what was really cool was some friends of his came. And what they did for a week is they just sat with him. He lost his health, he lost his kids, he lost his property, and he's sitting in a pile of rubble and ashes, and they just sit with him, cry with him for a week. It's only when they began to speak that they became miserable comforters. That's what Job said of him. You're miserable comforters, are you all? It's like, just go home. Why are you here? But when they came and just sat with him, I believe they ministered to him so much. And I've kind of taken that as, I've tested this. And you know what? It works. It really does. A number of years back, I had a dear friend, and his father passed away. And so I went to his house, and I just sat on the couch with him, and he was sitting there in grief and sadness, and I just sat with him. And being a host kind of guy that he is, he's trying to get me stuff, and I just said, I'm just here to sit with you, that's it. Just sit. Didn't say anything, not a word. Prayed for him, and after a while he left, and the most crazy thing happened. Years later, he comes back to me and says, you know what? I remember what you did for me on the day my dad died, and I'll never forget it. I mean, just sitting there, and that's something all of us can do, right? Sit there and be quiet and just let you know I'm here with you, and I'm praying for you, and And that's what David's kind of trying to do. He's just trying to send some comfort his way through these guys that he's sending. But here's the problem. Verse 3. And the princes of the people of Ammon said to Hanun their lord, do you think that David really honors your father because he has sent comforters to you? Has David not rather sent his servants to you to search the city, to spy it out, and to overthrow it? And so David's gesture of kindness is perceived with ill intent. As these representatives of David come in to offer condolences to Hanun for his loss, all his partners say, come on, dude. Do you think they're here just to say we feel bad for you? They're taking notes. They're doing reconnaissance. They're spying out the land. Their intent is to come and attack us, and so they're getting some intel, some inside information. And so it's really interesting how they're receiving this act of kindness. As a general rule, as a general principle, I would say, dishonest people have a hard time trusting anyone. Dishonest people don't trust people because why? Because they're dishonest themselves. If I wouldn't trust me, why would I trust you? If I know who I am, then, you're probably just as bad. And so dishonest people, now I get it, as loving and godly people, we still have to have our head screwed on straight. We have to be shrewd. We have to be wise. And I would certainly not say, hey, trust everyone, because if you trust everyone, you're going to get taken advantage of. But we could and should be able to have people that we know and love and say, hey, you know what? I trust you. I trust you completely. I don't know what was the smartest thing to do, but I've even given people my PIN number. Here's my PIN number. Go, you need some, here's my card. Go get some money. Take my PIN. My wife is going, you did what? A long time ago. I haven't done it since. But, that is the nature, I believe, of people that have the love of God. And when you have the love of God, and you have people that you know have the love of God, you should be able to trust them. Now, the world, not so much. The world, I'm sorry, I don't trust you farther than I can kick you. I just, you want me to trust you, we need to have some things worked out and understood. Because there's a lot of scammers out there. And you got to be careful of the scammers, because they're out there, and they got a million ways. But this gesture of kindness from David is not received well. Let's just put it that way. They think that David is up to no good. I think it's because they are not trustworthy people themselves, as we're going to see. So in verses 4 and 5, therefore Hanun took David's servants, shaved off half their beards, cut off their garments in the middle at their buttocks, and sent them away. And when they told David, he sent to meet them, because the men who were greatly ashamed. And the king said, wait at Jericho until your beards have grown, and then return. And so David takes these guys who have been humiliated. The king has these guys beard shaved. And in that culture, the men, their beards were like sacred to them. They were like, it was everything. Some men would rather die than have their beard shaved. Their beards represented their manhood. Their beards represented their freedom, because you know who they would shave? They would shave the slaves. If you were a slave, they would shave you because it was a dead giveaway that, you know what? You're a slave. You're not a free man. And so for them to shave half their beards was like one of the most absolutely humiliating things that you could ever do to a man. And then they kind of upped it one more, and they exposed them. They cut their garments so that they were exposed to the world. And it was just a terrible thing to do. To insult the ambassador of a king was the same as insulting the king himself. To treat an ambassador this way, you might as well have treated the king that way. It's just that serious. And so when you see how these guys are treated, these guys that were bringing blessings and comfort and in all sincerity, wanting to do a really good thing for this guy who's hurting, well, I think there's some great lessons for us in that. I mean, think about what you and I do. What we do is we go into this dark world where people are hurting, and we say, hey, we've got the best news ever for you. There can be forgiveness for you. There can be restoration for you. There can be healing for you. There can be blessing for you. All these things that we do when we share the gospel with people. And you know, the fact of the matter is, you can go out into the world and do this, and there's at least a possibility that you're going to be slandered and ridiculed. That's just the reality. 2 Timothy 3:12 says this, all those who live godly will suffer persecution. I mean, you just try and do the right thing. And the reality is, you might suffer for doing the right thing. And so my recommendation to you is this, as we walk out into this world and try and live as lights in this dark world, do the best you can, but prepare yourself for the worst. Do the best you can with people, do the best you can for people, but prepare yourself in your mind, in your heart, for the worst. So if it happens, you're not like, oh, I can't believe they were so mean to me. Just prepare yourself for that. So that if and when it happens, you're not like blown away. Like, you know, oh, they were so mean to me. It's like, I just think you can be happy when people are kind to you. If you just prepare yourself for, hey, they might get mad at me, they possibly could speak ill, but when they're kind and receptive, you'll be like, oh, wow, that was so great. They actually appreciated it. And don't let it be something that discourages you, but just in your mind, if you're prepared for the worst and you receive anything better than that, yeah, that's how I feel. It's a blessing. It's cool. And I think as believers, and I think as people just in this particular culture that we live in the United States, we just have to learn to handle being offended better. I really do. I hate to say it so bluntly, but you know what? We're a bunch of sissy, whiny babies in this culture. Everything offends us. Everything hurts our feelings. Oh, don't say that. It's like, don't offend it. Not like we could seek to go out and offend people, but I think when it comes our way, man, we just get bent out of shape too easily. Just cry about everything. Oh, he said something mean to me. He made fun of me. He made an illusion that wasn't right. It's like, so what? Get over it. Toughen up a little bit. Don't get so sensitive. Don't be so overly sensitive. I know you're like, man, you're talking like a man, Pastor Ray. I am, and I'm just sick of seeing people all bent out of shape and acting like little babies. So these guys, they end up hanging out in Jericho. David says, stay out of circulation until your beards grow back. Stay in Jericho. If I was there, I'd still be in Jericho to this day. I'd spend my entire life in Jericho saying, oh, the shame. What am I going to do? And so, kindness offered and kindness rejected. But it gets deeper. Because in verse 6, when the people of Ammon saw that they had made themselves repulsive to David, literally it means they made themselves stink. They just became offensive. It's like they just were like a whole people of bad breath. They just stunk everywhere. The people of Ammon sent and hired the Syrians of Beth Rehob and the Syrians of Zobah, 20,000 foot soldiers, from the king of Maacah 1,000 men, and from Ishtob 12,000 men. And so the Ammonites, realizing that, you know what, we've done something that has pushed the button. You know, they go from kindness to war, from offense to now they're going to have to go on defense. They're going to have to go from humiliation to aggression. It's going to be, they've done something, they've crossed the line. And it just seems like that's something that happens even to our day, where it's like people push Israel. October 7th was something that pushed a people to the point where they couldn't not respond. Right? They couldn't not respond. You can't invade a land, kill innocent people, take hostages, and then say, okay, you know, it's all good, right? It's like, what did you expect them to do? It's like, you can't just let some things go like that. And that's kind of where David is at here. We just can't let this go. And so when they realize that we have just started a war with David, they hire out some help. They basically get 34,000 soldiers from Syria. They hire out. They get what do they call soldiers you hire? Mercenaries. Yes, they get mercenaries. They hire mercenary armies to come in and say, hey, you know what? We might have bit off more than we could chew. We might have started a fight that we can't finish. And so here's a bunch of money. Come and fight with us. And it's so unfortunate to me when I look at what happens here, because here is what could have been a good relationship. I mean, David had good intentions in this. From Israel's side, if you know how close Israel is to Jordan, it's like you want your neighbors that close to you to get along with you. You want to get along good with your neighbors. David wanted to get along good with his neighbors. And instead, we have something completely opposite. So verse 7, now when David heard of it, he sent Joab and all the army, I like this, of the mighty men. This is the first mention. David is now gathering his troops. And it says, he gathered his mighty men. David had mighty men. These were like his special forces. These were men that, I'm telling you, you just wouldn't want to mess with these guys. You wouldn't want to tangle with them. You wouldn't want to be in a war with them. If you want to get an idea of what these guys are like, take a look at homework for tonight, 2 Samuel chapter 23, verses 8 and forward, and it describes these mighty men. These are men of great skill and effectiveness at war. They had prowess. They killed lions. They killed giants. They killed men, multiple, dozens, even hundreds of men, single-handedly. These were bad dudes. And it says, this is the first time it says, David gathered his mighty men. It's like, oh man, you guys are in trouble. David's mighty men are gathering. And I want to give you a little note of encouragement, because God wants you, he wants me, to be one of his mighty men or women. He wants us to be mighty in him. He wants us to be dangerous in a good way for him. He wants us to go into the kingdom of darkness and do some incredible damage to the kingdom of darkness by shining light. But here's what's interesting to me about these mighty men. If you want to just jot it down in your margin, 1 Samuel chapter 22, verses 1 and 2 describe the beginnings of these mighty men. And you know what the beginnings of these mighty men were? They were in debt, they were distressed, they were discontent. Can you relate? Do you feel like you're in a little debt right now? Do you feel like you're a little distressed right now? Do you feel like you're a little discontent right now? Because that's what these guys were. When the men gathered to him at the cave of Adullam, they were in debt, they were distressed, they were discontent, and they gathered around David and made David their captain. And by just hanging out with David and being around David and being influenced by David, they, not all, but many, some, became David's mighty men. If you feel like, wow, I don't think I'm really special forces material for God. I'm really more like Gomer Pyle or Don Knotts. You got to be old to know those guys, but they're just not exactly the stellar example of military might. That's okay. Keep hanging around with the Lord. Keep taking in his word. You're kind of in training right now. You're in boot camp. He's working on you right now. He's developing you. He's strengthening you. And one day, if you remain consistent, if you continue to grow, you will be one of God's mighty men or women. I believe that with all my heart. You can. Not all will, but you can. You can do it in the Lord. And so the mighty men come out. And now we see verses 8 through the rest of the chapter. The battle is about to begin. Let's get it on. They're ready to rumble. Verse 8. Then the people of Ammon came out, put themselves in battle array at the entrance of the gate. And the Syrians of Zobah, Beth-rehob, Ishtob, and Makkah were by themselves in the field. And when Joab saw that the battle line was against him before and behind, he chose some of Israel's best and put them in battle array against the Syrians. And the rest of the people he put under the command of Abishai his brother, that he might set them in battle array against the people of Ammon. And so, you've heard the phrase, I'm in a pickle. I don't know where that came from. But I do remember as a kid playing the game pickle. And some of you guys remember that too. You have one guy between two people, and they got the ball, and you're running back and forth trying to, because you got people on both sides that want to get you. I have no idea if that's where it came from. I'm just thinking it makes sense to me. Because these guys are, the Ammonites literally think we've got these guys in a pickle. We'll stand here and they're going to face off with us, and then from behind, the Syrians are going to come and they're going to have a battle on two fronts, in front and behind. And we've got them. This is a great strategy. And so when they come up with this strategy, and now Joab, the commander, realizes, okay, we got them in front of us, we got them behind us. And in my mind, Joab's saying, they'll never get away now. We've got them. So his brother Abishai takes part of the army and he faces off with the Ammonites. And Joab takes his guys and he says, we're going to go take care of the Syrians. And so here's the cool thing. And I see that in Israel now. I see that in the way they approach things, the way they think, that makes them like unbeatable. And what makes them unbeatable is the fact that, you know what? Notice what they do. They're willing to help each other. Verse 11, then he said, if the Syrians are too strong for me, then you shall help me. But if the people of Ammon are too strong for you, then I will come and I'll help you. And so what makes them unbeatable is their willingness to look out for one another. There's just something super powerful about a group of people that say, I will look out for you. And I need you to look out for me. And we will look out for one another. And it's not every man for himself. And it's like, not good luck with that. I hope you do okay. That's your job. That's my job. And I don't help you. You don't help me. They don't do that. Even to this day, you can see it in the way they're handling themselves, the way they take care of their own people. It's like they go to the length that it doesn't even make sense. But they look out for their people. And that makes them unbeatable. Because when you realize it, you know what? My brother's got my back. My brother has my back and I have his back. You have a stronger bond than if you were not looking out for one another. When we support, we succeed. When we support one another, we succeed. Everyone succeeds when we have an attitude that says, you know what? I'm going to help you when you need help. And when I need help, hey, come and give me a hand. That is a successful mentality. And that is sorely lacking in our culture. And even as a church, we can always do better, can't we? Can we do better at that? Of course we can. We need to. Because, man, when we are together, it can't be stopped. When we're divided, everything stops us. Anything stops us. And there's the wisdom. He said, we're going to look out for each other. And then in verse 12, so he says, be of good courage, and let us be strong for our people and for the cities of our God. And may the Lord do what is good in his sight. And so Joab gives a motivational speech. He tells them this is why we're doing what we're doing. He says, guys, we are fighting. But we are fighting for our people and for the cities of our God. You got to know your why, what you're doing. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I going to war? And if you don't have a why, as we're going to see in just a minute, you really have no motivation to fight. So he reminds them, the reason you're doing this is for your families. Because if we don't succeed, your family will suffer. And if we don't succeed, the cities of our God will be taken. And that is why you go in there and you fight and you do not give up. And you fight and you help one another out. Because defeat is not even an option. And when we come into something knowing, you know what, if in this spiritual battle that I'm fighting, it's the same thing. Men, why do you walk with God? Why are you walking with God? Well, I hope one reason is because I'm fighting for my family. I'm fighting for my family. I'm the leader of this thing. And so I've got to fight for them. And you fight for the cities of your God. That's your neighbors, the people around you. Failing God isn't an option. The cost of losing would be too high. Their homes, their cities, their families, their neighbors, their friends. And he says, you know, at the end of the day, we trust the Lord. The Lord's going to get us through this. We have to look to the Lord. And so, verse 13. So Joab and the people who were with him drew near for the battle against the Syrians. Remember, Joab took some of the top soldiers and he said, we're going to take the Syrians. 34,000 of them. And notice what happens. The Syrians fled before him. In my Bible, I have written down, hired help equals no heart. Hired help doesn't really have a heart. The Syrians had no motivation to fight. They were only there for the money. And when it just comes to money at the end of the day is not really the greatest motivator. It is a motivator. It's what gets us to get up and go to work. But when it comes to laying it all on the line, money is just, I can always get more money. I don't need to do this for money. But when you realize you're doing it for God, you're doing it for your family, you're doing it for your neighbors, you're doing it for your nation, you're doing it for your people, that's motivation. So hired help usually equals no heart. I personally look for people with heart. You can always hire help. That's easy to do. But heart, that has to be something that is born in each individual human being right here. I'm going to do this, and they're going to call me a Nazi. So, understand that these Syrians had no motivation to fight. So when they saw Joab and his army, more than likely significantly fewer in number, but man, when they saw the look in their eye and the determination of these guys, they said, boys, we're out of here. And they fled. And from what I can read, they fled before the battle even started. In other words, it's like, oh, these guys mean business. We don't want none of that. And so they turned around and ran away. And when the Ammonites who hired these guys saw their hired help running away, they went, uh-oh. Hey, boss, we got trouble. And they turned around and they went away. Verse 14. When the people of Ammon saw that the Syrians were fleeing, they also fled before Abishai and entered the city. So Joab returned from the people of Ammon and went to Jerusalem. So I don't know, how much fighting there was. I think there's simple intimidation was enough to get everybody to run. But the enemy's usually not done. He doesn't give up too easily. Verse 15 through 19, we see the Syrians kind of regroup, and they still want to go to war. They've got them outnumbered, probably. When the Syrians saw that they had been defeated by Israel, they gathered together. Then Hadadezer sent and brought out the Syrians who were beyond the river, so they called in for more reinforcements. And they came to Helam. And Shobach, the commander of Hadadezer's army, went before them. And when it was told David, he gathered all Israel, crossed the Jordan, and came to Helam. And the Syrians set themselves in battle array against David, and David fought with them. And so this time, David is actually leading the troops. And when David's leading the troops, you've got big problems. Because David knew how to take care of himself and his men. And so they face off with one another. They begin to fight with one another. And in verse 18, then the Syrians fled before Israel. And David killed 700 charioteers and 40,000 horsemen of the Syrians, and struck Shobach, the commander of their army, who died there. I'd say that's a pretty resounding victory. And when all the kings who were servants to Hadadezer saw that they were defeated by Israel, they made peace with Israel and served them. So the Syrians were afraid to help the people of Ammon, or were afraid to help the people of Ammon anymore. Did I read that right? So the Syrians were afraid to help the people of Ammon anymore. That's a funny phrase. It doesn't make a lot of sense to my brain, but it makes sense. So the Syrian army suffered a huge, huge defeat. 47,000 men died in that battle. And it says, after the battle was over, everybody said, let's have peace. Shalom. That's what in our country we call peace through strength. In other words, that's what the world understands. The world understands we'll be at peace as long as we know you can beat us up. Then we'll have peace. If we can beat you up, then there's not going to be any peace. Because that's the way it is in this world. It's dog eat dog. It's ungodly. It's like the I don't know how they say it. There's probably a cool phrase that describes it. But, it's just like, if you're bigger, you have control. If you're stronger, you have control. And so now Israel is in this place where they've kind of established themselves and said, hey, you know what? We're going to trust in the Lord. We're going to fight for our families. We're going to fight for our cities. And we're not taking defeat as an option. It's really hard to beat people that will not quit. And it says from that point on, nobody wanted to help Ammon fight anymore. It's like, nah, not worth it. Y'all are on your own. And so you can close your Bibles up. I'm thinking through this chapter, thinking, man, there's so many great applications. But I also realize it's just an unfortunate thing. And so often it is. That what could have been good turned into something really bad. Something escalated to the point where it's like, wow, now like thousands and thousands of people are dying on the battlefield. When it started off as something good. And I just have to remind myself, don't let something good turn into something bad. Don't let something that somebody means well. And you have to be so careful because, sometimes things happen and people mean well, it just doesn't come across that way. They mean well, but, somehow we get offended, hurt. Just be careful with that because this is something that escalated into something really big and ugly. And maybe it was unavoidable. But for us, I think there's a lesson to be had from that. And secondly and lastly, because we live in a fallen world, because we live in a very imperfect place with a whole lot of, as we talked about on Sunday, a lot of blind people. You can't expect blind people to see. You can't expect blind people to understand and get it. And if that be the case, we live in this fallen world that does not know how to handle kindness. Understand that. In this world, of course, you learn from a very young age you can't trust anyone. There's only certain people you trust, and those are the people that, maybe are the closest to you. And you can't even trust them. They can't believe that anybody would show kindness for no reason. And we see that all the time. We do outreaches and they're like, we don't understand. Why are you doing this? Because we serve a God that's kind. And because we serve a God that's kind, we want to be kind to you. They don't even understand. It's always, what's the catch? When is the hammer going to fall? When are you going to make your pitch? When are you going to ask me for something? When are you going to make me sign on the dotted line and commit something to you? And we never do. And they walk away going, well, that was weird. They were kind to us and they didn't want anything back. That's the way it should be. And the reality is that in the world, there's people that love their darkness more than the light. And so no matter how kind you are to them, they're still not going to receive it because they just know that that's light and I love darkness. I like right where I'm at. And in spite of all these things, love them anyway. Love them anyway. I know that's a tall thing to ask. I know it's a big thing to ask, but I believe that's what the Lord would cause us to do. I had you close your Bibles, didn't I? All right, I'll read it to you. I'll read it to you. I don't want to be a guy I'll be that guy. Matthew 5, verse 11. Blessed are you when they revile and persecute you and say all kinds of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven. For so they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Amen. So what the Lord's telling me is, you know what? You're walking into this fallen world that is not going to necessarily receive your kindness, not going to be open to your kindness. You're going to be kind. They're going to treat you bad in return. Love them anyway. That's okay. Love them anyway. Because your reward is in heaven. And that's what really counts. Let's pray. Father, we thank you again for your mercies and your love. Thank you for bringing us to this place, this time. Giving us a great example of real life, Lord. And that real life is kindness that isn't rewarded. And it can be confusing until we understand that that's the natural way things go. And Lord, help us to receive that with grace. To not get offended and hurt and shut down. but to realize that we're going into an enemy's territory, and sometimes the enemy doesn't like that. Give us grace, Lord. And before we go, we pray, if there's anybody in this place today that needs to turn to you in faith and receive Jesus Christ as Savior and Lord, or to return in repentance and receive restoration and a new beginning, I want to pray for them right now, Lord. I pray that you would meet them and draw them to yourself. It is your kindness that brings us to repentance, Lord. And so, Lord, knowing that you've been so kind, knowing that you provided forgiveness through the cross, knowing that you provided life in resurrection, knowing that you want to change people's hearts and lives and make them better, Lord, we pray that if there's anybody in this place that needs to receive that today, that you would work in their hearts. Draw them to yourself. And if you find yourself here thinking, yeah, that's me. I need to place my faith in the Lord. I need to return to him. I need to come to him for the first time. I need to put my trust in the Lord. I need to surrender to him. If that's you right now, the invitation right now is for you. You can come to the Lord right now and receive his forgiveness. And have a new start, new beginning. And so if that's you right now, and you know that new beginning is what you need, I'm going to ask you right where you're at. Get up out of your seat, stand to your feet. I want to lead you in prayer. If that's you tonight, the Lord is calling you, and he's drawing you to himself. That you can leave this place different than how you walked in. You can leave this place forgiven. You can leave this place restored. You can leave this place knowing that the guilt and shame have been washed away because Jesus paid the penalty for that at the cross. He died for that. And so that's you right now. I'm going to ask you right where you're at. Get up out of your seat, stand to your feet, and I want to lead you in prayer. And the Lord's going to meet you tonight. And so that's you. This is your invite. You can come to him. This is the Lord saying, you can come to me. You can come to me right now. And he'll receive you. He won't send you away. He won't push you away. He'll wrap his arms around you and let you know he loves you. And so that's you. This is your moment. All right. Well, Lord, thank you so much for tonight. Thank you for bringing us to this place and this time. Thank you for my brothers and sisters, Lord, and giving us the fellowship that you've given us. Send us out of this place, Lord, into the second half of this week, Lord, with your joy, with your peace, knowing, Lord, that you've got good plans for us. We thank you for your mercies. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.